Hello and welcome back to the On the Slab Horror Show, the show that we bring to you each and every Friday night. Why we do this on a Friday night? Because Friday night is horror night. The boys are off again tonight, unfortunately. These things just seem to fall when the boys are off. Such is life. Such is life. For my established guest here tonight, the reason this goes out on a Friday night is because after 10 p.m. on a Friday night was when we used to get our free to air horror movies in the 90s and 2000s. Um, and that's where I got to see a lot of the classics growing up. Got to see the Nightmare on Elm Street, first horror film I ever watched. Brilliant. Favorite horror film. Got to see Friday the 13th. That scene with Kevin Bacon scared the bollocks out of me. And things like that. But it's a tribute to that. And speaking of a tribute, this our guest this evening is writer, producer, co-director of the newest tribute to all creature features in the Monster Mash. How are you, Mr. Richard Terrasi?
I'm doing well, and how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is an honor. I mean, you caught me by surprise, and I was very flattered to be on this.
Oh, absolutely. I want to thank you for taking the time, obviously, to come on and let us watch the movie.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, I'm glad you got to watch it.
yeah, I like because these things, for the likes of these movies coming to Ireland, don't tend to come over. We never see them, or they'll find them by chance in 10 years' time, which
Right.
is a shame, really.
Well, I mean, the good thing about it is that it's gonna have a street date coming up soon. It's gonna have a release date. So within the next coming months, there'll be a release date.
And obviously, if you follow us on the page, you'll find out when it's coming out because we'll share out the socials and stuff like we normally do.
Absolutely.
Um, but no, absolutely, I love watching indie horrors and I love getting in contact. Obviously, having guests on. We like going through obviously smaller, low budget movies as well because some of them are quality.
They are,
Um,
and that's what I grew up with. I love indie films. I mean, a lot of the classic horror movies that we enjoy today are indie films. They started off small, and that's why we love them so much.
I think speaking of indie, before we get into your own movie, the emergence of indie horrors in the last year has just been explosive for horror, really, hasn't it?
Especially with Terrifier.
Yeah, that's the one I bring up all the time when I do this. We talk about it. Like Damien Leone having
Oh,
350k budget or 250k budget and stood toe to toe in the cinema with Halloween Ends
it's phenomenal. What he did,
uh,
it's phenomenal.
and boxed 11 million
Actually,
domestically.
actually more. From what
Was it more? Was it?
I think he may have reached over 14 million.
Oh, even better, even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I tell you what though, Terrifier 2 was phenomenal.
I watched the first Terrifier and I was quite surprised by I went in when I didn't expect much from it when I first watched it, and I was quite surprised, and I really enjoyed it. When I heard Terrifier 2 was coming out, I had to get myself glued to the in front of a theater and watch it, and I enjoyed every bit of it. Even though it's a much longer film, it's like 2.5 hours. It could have been cut down a little shorter, but I enjoyed every bit of it.
I mean, I don't know whether you had the chance to check out our back catalog. We have a Terrifier 2 episode on it. That's one of the only downfalls we have to it. Was the runtime was probably a little too long,
Yeah.
but the pace of the movie goes perfectly with it.
Yes.
Because you know, some indie horrors you find can drag a bit.
Yep.
This didn't at all.
No, it didn't. I was glued right into it. Never got bored. Enjoyed every bit of it, and the effects were amazing.
Like if you haven't seen Terrifier 2 at this stage, or if you have, once I say that scene, you're
Yeah.
going to know.
Yeah, my kudos to Damien Leone. I actually met him at the Days of the Dead Film Festival in Atlanta last month. Great guy. I met David Howard Thornton. Great guy. great film, great filmmaker, great actor. I had I had a nice little conversation with him. I mean, the guy's a brilliant filmmaker, and I see a lot of great things coming his way in the near future.
I think he signed on to work with A24, hadn't he? Was it
Uh,
A24?
um, no, actually, Ghost House Pictures.
Or Ghost House, sorry, Ghost House, that's who it was, yeah.
I read
Um,
that recently. Yep.
yeah, that's brilliant. And I think he's doing a movie with James Wan now at the minute.
Is he?
If
Oh,
if
wow.
if reports are to be correct that I've read, which is great to see him being handed a budget. But
Yeah, and see where he goes
as
with it. Yeah.
like it's great handing people budgets and saying there you go, but it can also ruin them because he had to get really creative.
Well, that's the thing with indie filmmakers. You don't have the control from producers telling you what they want you to do. You have full control of your own project. That's
Yeah,
why a lot of these low budget indie films become classics because you have all that creative control, within your hands. But when you have big, you know, Hollywood or big producers having control of your film, that's when things go wrong.
like just before we get off Terrifier now in a second, Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2, if they were big budget movies, those two scenes that happen in those two movies don't happen.
Right, exactly.
Like the hacksaw scene in the first one, 100% does not happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely
The
not.
bedroom scene in 2 definitely does not happen.
But he opened up a whole can of worms with this because now Hollywood is seeing, wow, this is making money with these graphic, amazing effects that he created in these scenes. Now, now they're getting in the game on this. So we'll see
It's
what
it's
what they're
it's
gonna do.
going back to Cronenberg body horror, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
I'm a big fan of Cronenberg.
uh,
I'm a big fan of Cronenberg. I love his
yeah,
films. His earlier films, more so.
yeah, like he's an art in his own, really, isn't he?
Yeah,
No pun intended for Terrifier there,
definitely.
um, but like, yeah, I'm just hoping that Hollywood don't start rolling out torture porn movies again.
Yeah,
Um,
not a big fan of torture porn. I'm more of a fan of good old horror films. Like I love the gore, the blood, the splatter.
yeah,
But when it's fun, and Terrifier, even though there's a lot of gore and a lot of like mutilation, but it's done in tongue in cheek and it's fun.
and for a villain to not say a word but steal the show.
And David Howard Thornton is brilliant doing that. Brilliant.
Yeah, like I've said it on multiple occasions now. That is the hottest prospect in male acting in horror at the minute.
Yep.
I can't say it's the hottest prospect in horror because everyone knows that that's Jenna Ortega right now.
But
But
Art the Clown is most likely on its way to be another iconic horror character like Freddy and Jason.
and just on that, funny that you bring that up because our co-host Ian Dynamo Kelly, big shout out to Ian, brought it out in the episode that we had that we lost Michael Myers in Halloween. For what should be the last one. Now we're going to get countless reboots over the next number of years, no doubt about that. But we've lost Michael Myers, or what was supposed to be the original Michael Myers, and we've
Right.
had the birth of another classic now.
Right, to
Uh,
carry the torch now and
yeah,
create something fresh and different.
yeah. And it's a very valid point. Like, and you just brought it up there that he's going to be right up there. Now there's talks that three is going to come out, and then possibly a fourth one.
When I spoke to Damien Leone, he said there's definitely three is on its way, and then I heard also possibly a four.
Yeah, but that's enough about everyone else's. Let's get down to business.
Definitely, let's get this going.
The, the Monster Mash. Tell me all things monster.
Okay, so Monster Mash came about with my love for watching creature features as a kid. I grew up since I was 4 years old. I was glued to that TV watching Godzilla movies, Hammer films, all these classic low budget indie films, and with the horror host hosting like Chilla Theater or You had Morgus the Magnificent, which was a mad scientist creating all these wild experiments that would go wrong at the end, while hosting, a horror film. And I loved all that stuff, and I just wanted to create something to bring that back, and pay homage, uh, to what I grew up loving, watching, and I miss it as a kid. When I was a kid, I miss all that. So I wanted to put something together and have a lot of people that grew up with what I grew up watching, and so they can, enjoy something that's nostalgic in a way, where when they were younger and indulge in this type of stuff. And I'm, like I said, I'm a huge Monster fan, and with the limited amount of money that we had, I was trying to put together as much as I can and cram everything in there.
Absolutely. And there were three. So essentially, you'd say four stories, because obviously you have the host
The wraparound,
running
yeah.
his background stories.
Yes.
You have the opening scene, which we'll get into now in a second. We have the middle, which is obviously the big one, and then the ending. So, like, what kind of budget did you have for this? Ish.
Well, the Monster Mash started production in 2018. Uh,
Wow.
it wasn't a film that was shot entirely in a month. It took about, I would say, about 3 years to complete. So, the Horror Hound, which is the last story, was actually shot first. Then Whispering Hollow Road, then the Freudstein segments, and then the house was the last to be shot. Uh, Majority of the film was shot on film with a 16 millimeter camera, with Kodak film stock, except for Homebound Horror, which was shot on a Canon camera. So that was the only film that was shot digitally.
Yeah, you can tell it looks a lot cleaner.
Yeah,
And it's obviously the way the story is meant to be done as well.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And that has more of that grindhouse vibe to it compared to each
Very much
story
so.
is meant to look different from one another.
So we'll get into it then. Uh, Forest Hill Road, or
Whispering Hollow Road.
Whispering Hollow Road, Forest Hill Road. Where the fuck did that even come from, Greg? Um, so obviously you sent me the screener to watch this, and a lot of people won't know, and I'm not gonna give too much away because obviously the movie's not out yet. But very J horror. I'm not gonna say what kind of story it is. Very dark, very out there. Two very good actors in this.
Yes. Uh,
Very well shot.
Thank you.
Very dark. Very like, and what people will know when I say J horror, we're obviously talking about the likes of Ringu, not obviously The Ring and the American
Definitely
versions.
Japanese inspired. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Very dark, and she's very pale in it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which fits right into that. So enlighten me how this story came about without actually giving too much away.
I just like you said, I wanted to do something that paid homage to. I love Japanese horror, uh, and I wanted to put something together that had that Japanese style to it. Uh, all while it, I okay. In 2007, I came out with my first feature film, Am I Evil? And it's a psychological thriller of what goes on in the mind of a serial killer, and the killer's name is Andrew Lakewood. So this is basically an unofficial sequel, if you want to call it that, where I use the same character from Am I Evil, from my first feature, and I brought him into this Whispering Hollow Road story. So basically, it's Andrew Lakewood, that character, meeting this other character that he picks up on Whispering Hollow Road, and I wanted to have some fun with it, and without spoiling where it goes, I wanted to have a nice twist ending, um, while paying homage to creature features and Japanese horror.
Yeah, perfect. I wouldn't let you go any further there because obviously I don't want it to be ruined for people that will watch it. Um, some really good camera work, couple of good bluffs in here too.
Yeah,
Um,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and like there's some really good. I don't want to give too much away. There's some really good effects in it as well. Would be the best way to say it before I can go too deep into it and say what it is and what happens. Like, which is very strange for this show for me to sit here and not try not to spoil it because obviously there's not been many movies that haven't been out that we've had the chance to sit down and do, so that kind of way. So I'm trying to be careful in what
Well,
I say.
what I can say is that most of the effects were designed and created by me, except for the creature was I had that designed by CFX, and it was modified by me. Um, and I had Megan Reed, my special effects assistant, who also worked on pretty much the entire film, uh, helped me out with a lot of the effects. Without her, I mean, she was a big asset to the film and the effects. But yeah, that pretty much the effects were designed, by me, and the creature design was done by CFX.
Yeah, like yeah, we'll I'll stop it there and say that's all you need to know. There's a creature in it, and that's it. Um, but yeah, it was very dark. Um, I wouldn't say fun because it's not the right word, but it's an entertaining watch to an extent.
I shot that. It was very hard to shoot that because I I never thought it would be so complicated shooting scenes in a car. That I would say that was probably my toughest challenge. I didn't before I started production, I never thought how difficult and complicated it would be shooting scenes in a car. I would say that was probably the most complicated, because most of that story is a road piece. The picture is
Yeah,
a road piece. So shooting out in exterior shots on a dark, lonely road in the middle of nowhere, setting up lights because it was just pitch black, and doing those tight shots in a car. It was very complicated.
yeah. Like it seemed that, and like okay, it's a lower budget movie, so you're not expecting it to be as clean as say maybe a HD camera, and you're saying it was shot on 16 millimeter as well, which makes it even more impressive. Now that I know that,
Yeah, and I wanted Whispering Hollow Road to also look like a film noir because it's very shadowy, very dark. It's
yeah,
purposely shot dark and shadowy. So I wanted to give it that like film noir type of look because of the shadows and everything, um, especially in the car sequences, the shots in the car. Um, but yeah, that's what I was going for in the film. I had the great Michael Gentile, who played Andrew Lakewood. Um, Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He passed away a year ago. But he was a phenomenal actor, phenomenal person to work with. I've worked with him on a previous film before, the Monster Mash. He worked on my previous film, Dark Side of the Moon, and he was a sweetheart, a great guy, very talented. And I had the pleasure of working with him, and he did a phenomenal job as Andrew Lakewood in the film.
uh, absolutely. Like there's, as I said, there's a couple of big bluffs in this story, which was very fun as well. Do love an L bluff in a movie. And obviously, you're not going to get many more bluffs than you do in the likes of what's out now in Scream and stuff. So I was impressed with this. Like, I do like J horror. I will say it's. Do you know what? I'd really go as far as saying when J horror is done right, when the UK is done right, when Spanish is done right, I think J horror might well be the best. Even when the Americans do it, I think J horror just has that feel about it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's something totally different. First of all, Japanese films are just so out there, and that's what makes them so good. It's just so different. And when you have an American production trying to remake a
Oh
Japanese film, it's just not the same. It's not the same.
no, no, that's not saying that J horror is the best type of horror.
Right.
For me, everyone knows. Anyone that watches this show knows Creature Features is my box. Um, and there it is. But like J horror, I think have just such a strong run. It's like the UK. Like when the UK get horrors right, they're fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, when the Spanish, when you watch Del Toro,
Oh, he's
when he done the Orphanage and things like that, the Orphanage is fucking fantastic.
yeah.
Wreck was another one, and then we got the shitty remake in
Yeah.
Quarantine, which was a scene for scene remake, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Right. It's like just show the original.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. We don't need
But
a
like that, like I actually had the chance to sit down with Matthew Patrick Davis from Barbarian a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't until I rewatched Wreck there a couple of days ago, I was like, that character's exactly like the mother from Barbarian.
right. Right. And
But like
you see where they got that.
it was such a random movie though, Wreck. I remember finding that by mistake. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then halfway through it, when it was all Spanish, I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "I'm not in the mood to watch this now." But
but
it's so perfect.
it didn't. Yeah, the language didn't matter. It's just what was shot and the way it was shot. It
Yeah.
was a good film.
But like, it's getting off a bit of topic there. But like, into J horror, back to you. Um, I thought it worked really well as an opening piece. Um, kind of a slower burner,
Yeah, it's a little bit
but
of a
it
slow burn, and it was meant to be that way.
intently builds the atmosphere though and the tension.
And that's what I love. I love building upon characters, substance. That's the thing what lacks in a lot of films today is substance, character development, and it makes a story, it makes a film weak when you don't have that. And I like building upon that and then just building because that's what a lot of films in the 70s and 80s. That's what they had. You build and build and build, and then you just hit them.
I think like obviously you don't know Carl's not here tonight. Carl is a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan.
Well, the
Uh,
original, of course, the
yeah,
1974. I mean,
yeah.
that's one of my favorite films. I love the original Chainsaw.
Now I'm in the boat where I think the O3 one is better,
Which
but
one?
the O3 one, the Michael Bay one,
Oh, you like that one, really? Okay.
but the Leatherface wasn't as good. Andrew Berryovsky was far too big.
Yes.
Um, but the supporting cast, Jessica Biel and things like that, Orly Emery was fucking phenomenal.
Okay.
Everything else around it, bar Leatherface, was better.
Right.
Um, for me, I love the original one right up until the dinner scene.
I love that dinner scene. It's just
Do you know what? The dinner scene is fine.
very
It's
disturbing.
anything when the granddad comes into it, when he starts coming back to life. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like that's it. I was thrown out of the movie then. I seen it when I was about 14 years of age, and I sat there going, this is deadly, this is deadly. And then that happened, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this a zombie movie now?
No, he was just he was alive. He was just very weak and just old and
He
decrepit,
was
and he
living.
was in a chair.
He was living in the attic. He was.
But I thought that's what made the film brilliant. Is just it was just a wacky, balls out, uh, you know, craziness of a family, and it just what Toby Hooper did. It was phenomenal for that time.
That and then
You never saw anything like it back then.
everyone remembers the lump hammer scene as well.
It's just it was very disturbing to me. It always disturbed me the whole what she was going through with the hammer scene and the bucket and him missing her head, and then when he hits her head, and it was very.
Oh, it's no. It's, like don't get me wrong, I do like everyone thinks that I the way I go on about it, I hate it. I just think everything else was better for the '03 one, bar, obviously Gunnar Hansen's amazing performance,
Right.
um, and there's been no one that's gotten even close to that.
No, Gunnar Hansen was by far the best Leatherface.
Yeah. Like that's that. Like everyone says to me, I says, yeah, 2003, perfect. Bar Leatherface too big,
Right.
like far too big, far too big. He gets his arm chopped off and he's still fucking running around.
Even though
Um,
even though I have a guilty pleasure, I love Texas Chainsaw Part 2, which
oh,
is a
you have to. Like,
minor.
it's great fun.
But what's unfortunate is too bad Gunnar Hansen wasn't Leatherface, because I think it would have made the film even far better.
Do you know what? I'm glad he wasn't.
Really?
Yeah, I'm glad he wasn't. I'm glad it didn't. Like, don't get me wrong. We've seen it. Nightmare on Elm Street done it as well, where it moved towards a comedier side and a
I
wackier
see
side.
your point. Yeah, because because Chainsaw was meant to be totally the opposite of what the first one was.
Yeah. Like two, they even had it set as the Breakfast Club.
Right.
Remember the case of it was the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, no, it's not. That wasn't like I enjoy too. I do,
I
but
love I love to. I never get tired of watching it.
it's and then obviously you've got Bill Moseley in there as Chop Top,
Yes. Great.
uh, and it's that like people call that maybe his defining role. I still think he's better in the Firefly trilogy.
Yeah, I love Devil's Rejects. I think that's Rob Zombie's best film.
It wouldn't be hard. He doesn't have very many.
Right.
They so Rob Zombie's original stuff isn't bad, but never let the man remake anything ever again,
Right. I
ever.
mean, to me, House of a Thousand Corpses, I
It was
enjoyed,
good.
but Devil's Rejects was his best.
Oh, by a mile, by a
Yeah.
mile. And like everyone slammed Tree from Hell. Um, I don't think it was needed, but it
Yeah.
didn't stop me. It didn't stop me wanting to see it.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. I didn't. I really thought three wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Then again,
Uh,
there's a lot of fans who wanted it. So
well, we got it. And I thought everyone giving out, oh, they didn't use Sid Haig because Sid Haig was very sick at the time, and I thought what they done at the start of it to kill him off worked really well.
yeah.
I think the rest of the movie goes a little bit meh, but it was good.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really care for it that much, like I did with Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses. But
I've only seen it once.
it was decent. It was okay.
I've seen it once, and I won't watch it again until I watch the three of them. Like it
Okay.
wouldn't be a movie I'd just sit down and be like, oh yeah, I'm watching this. Where I have done with House of a Thousand Corpses and I have done with Devil's Rejects. Actually, I haven't watched them in a while. I might give them a watch soon.
Yeah, I remember
um,
seeing House of a Thousand Corpses in the theater, and I enjoyed it a lot when I saw it in the theaters.
yeah, I remember watching. I remember renting it out as a movie in a collection. I didn't know what it was, didn't know anything about it, and I was like, this wasn't bad. And then we had the indie one or the indie one, the House of the or oh, fuck off, Greg. With the Devil's Rejects come out then
Right.
and just blew everything out of the water then.
Originally, Universal, Universal Pictures was supposed to release House of a Thousand Corpses, but I think they didn't want to have nothing to do with it, and it was in limbo for quite some time, and that's
It
when
was
Lion
4 years or something, wasn't it?
yeah, it was like 3 or 4 years or something like that, and then Lionsgate took it over and finally released it.
Liongate, I've heard from a few places, are the ones that if you can't get something, that they were ones that were willing to take chances.
At one time, when
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
were smaller. Now they blew up and they're huge.
Yeah,
much bigger than what they were. But yeah, back in the early 2000s, Lion Gates was the place to go to, to have your film distributed if it was good enough.
Ghost House then started doing it. A24 started doing it, and it is the right way to do it.
Yeah,
Because if you all you need is one of those movies to catch,
yep,
and then you're laughing. Like A24 had a few, and then all of a sudden everything started catching for them.
yeah. Well, I think there's a big uh, a surge in indie horror films that it's starting to pick up steam now, and like we spoke before about Terrifier and Skimmerink and
That was terrible. That was terrible.
all these low budget. But what I give though is they're micro budget films, and they're getting theatrical releases.
Making money.
Yeah.
That Skinnamarink was terrible though.
I saw it in the theater. I don't think it was terrible. I think if they cut it down a lot shorter, it would have worked a lot better. I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was totally different, but I respect the artistic aspect that the filmmaker was going for with this film. It was totally different.
I got 24 minutes in and I turned it off. And it's not often I turn a movie off.
Yeah, I went to the theater and I sat down through the whole thing, and I was okay with it.
It's, I mean, I don't take it away from anybody. I just thought it was terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think it was terrible. I like I said, I think if they cut it down, maybe if they cut 20 minutes, a half hour out of the film, I think it would have flowed a lot better. But I like I said, I respect the artistic aspect of the filmmaker and where they were going with it, and the fact that it was a $15,000 film, shot in one location in the house, never went outside, and they made over $1 million on it. It's phenomenal.
yeah, well, like fair play to them. I wouldn't take anything away from them, but you won't be getting anything from me. I'll tell you that. um, like I don't even think I'd be able to sit down and have a chat with them and sit there honestly and be like, "Did you enjoy the movie?" No, pal. Sorry, I didn't.
Right. Well, I mean, look, everybody has their, their taste, and
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think it's not something I would sit through again, possibly. But watching it a first time, I kind of dug it. It wasn't terrible for me.
Yeah, it's fair. Right. Again, we've gone way off topic here.
Yeah. So
Right.
let's go back
Let's,
into the Monster Mash.
right. Let's go. Part two. The house. This one is obviously the major part of the film. It's the longest story of the three, I think. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's the
Yeah,
longest story.
it's slightly longer than Homebound Horror.
Yeah. I don't think it's by much, um, but this one I didn't know what it was, what to expect from it, but going quickly into when they're in the house, so it's based around a couple going to buy a house.
And start a family.
Yeah. Well, I think they've already started the family. They've already done the fun part. Um, but yeah, they're going to buy the house, and they get this sweet old guy who comes out and he's chatting to them and stuff. But then you could see it taking a sinister turn quite quickly, and you could see the mood changing quite quickly when they were like, "I don't know if we're going to buy the house." I don't know whether it was intended to. I don't know whether you intended it to be this way or it just happened that like you could see his demeanor change.
No, he had this all planned out. Oh, well,
Oh,
spoiler alert, but I mean, where it was going. But yeah, I mean, this is something he's done before. Let's put it that way.
no, no, but like I don't. I mean, in general, like the character before you know anything's happening. So you know when they're sitting there having a conversation, she's
They're
like,
having
"I
a
bet you."
pleasant conversation, and then it starts going from a pleasant, get conversation about the house. It goes darker and darker and more
Yeah.
sinister. Yeah,
And
it was
then you're like,
purposely done that way because I love to expand and kind of like slow burn everything.
yeah, it was kind of like when they're talking about the convenience of going to the shop or this, that, and the other. He's like, "Well, you only have to get in a car and drive 10 minutes down the road." 10 minutes is a long way down the road.
It is. It
That's a
is.
half an hour. That's a half an hour round trip. Considering you've got 10 minutes down, 10 minutes back, and maybe 10 minutes in the shop.
It's an inconvenience.
Mm. I mean, like I live from my house to Tesco is about 6 minutes. Do you know what I mean? But it's a half an hour trip really. By the time you go into Tesco, get what you need, pay, get back in the car, and go.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like
So
it's
you
it's
can understand their concern as a, as a couple that wants to start a family and she's pregnant.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like you're if you wake up in the middle of the night in labor, that's a long trip to the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's an emergency.
Yeah, but like that's different story. Now I've got to ask you the question, right? And this isn't a spoiler. This is something you see on the wall in the house, right? You know when they're looking around the house, is that a Wendigo uh, skeleton head on the wall?
um, no, 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 I actually, I understand what you're. No, he pretty much when they take a tour of the house, you already see he collects for a reason. Obviously, without spoiling it, you understand why he has a collection of skulls and animals, especially in that kitchen area where like almost every room has a skull of a wolf or
Yeah,
other animal, pieces. But yeah, no, that was just something that was placed there for as a prop.
it wasn't actually meant to be that way
Uh,
because it's very similar to the look that you get in the Wendigo
yeah, I see what
folklore with.
you yeah, but
Oh, okay,
it was yeah. I wasn't trying to wink at anything. It was just a set prop that we had on the wall, and that was pretty much it. But if you got it, Creighton Reed, the character, the man who owns the house, he was actually named after Lon Chaney Jr.'s real name, Creighton, and his last name, Reed, which was Oliver Reed. So I combined the names together and I got Creighton Reed.
that's a good one. Now I'm gonna call you out here, right? I'm gonna call you out. 35 minutes 20 seconds into this movie, right? The couple are in the car driving to the house, and they're talking about getting a dog,
Yes.
right? They're gonna call the dog Landis,
Yes.
and there's a statement made in this point where he says it's the greatest werewolf movie of all time.
To me, it is.
I am calling bullshit.
um,
This
I,
is
you know what? I'll argue on that. To me, an American Wolf from London. I saw an American Wolf from London in 1982 when I was 4 years old. I'm sorry, 5 years old. Uh, and I saw it on HBO cable channel in New York, and it scared the shit out of me. I could not get through the transformation until I was in fifth grade. That's how much it scared the living shit out of me. That transformation was phenomenal. American Wolf of London always scared the living pants out of me, and to me, it just was something sentimental, and it's to this day it stands. I would say The Howling comes second, Dog Soldiers third, but an American Wolf of London to me is by far the best werewolf film ever made.
I don't agree.
Hey, we can have our disagreements.
Now this is my show. We can't have disagreements.
You're right.
Uh,
So what's your? I mean, what's your favorite?
no, it's Dog Soldiers for me.
Great film. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I just think to me on my list, it's number three.
So there's three of us that do this show, and then we have basically a fourth member in Tombstone Ted. So there's myself, there's Ian the Dynamo Kelly, there's Carl the King Woe, and then there we have Tombstone Ted. Three of us have so two of us. It used to be 2-on-2 with which one was better in American Werewolf and Dog Soldiers. It's now 3-on-1
Okay.
to Dog Soldiers. I think the story for Dog Soldiers is stronger.
Oh yeah. I mean, the pacing is like it's nicely shot. The pacing is done nice. The only thing is, I think I like the werewolves, but the werewolves in The Howling are superior.
I don't agree.
Okay,
I think I think both The Howling and Dog Soldiers have a better werewolf than American Werewolf in London.
okay.
I don't like the werewolf being on four legs.
I like that, just the fact that it was different, and I like the fact that Landis wanted to go in a different route with the werewolf, with the like, the whole werewolf genre, of how a werewolf should look.
Landis wanted to, right?
Right.
But Rick Baker didn't.
I know. Rick Baker wanted it to be on bipedal, and Landis wanted it to be on all fours. They fought
Yeah.
about that, but Landis won.
Well, he's the director.
Yeah,
Um, I just think the wolf is a bit small. Now I know he's long, but
I think he was massive,
I
and that's what
generally
and that's what made him more, to me. That's what made the werewolf more frightening, is because it looked like a wild, brutal, savage dog. I mean, I've had encounters in the past with a savage dog that was ready to rip me apart. So think about that times 10, and having a creature that looks like the werewolf in American Werewolf in London in front of you, you would shit in your pants.
I mean, that could be anything though. You know what I mean? Where if you have an 8 foot tall werewolf standing in front of you,
Well, obviously, yes.
and an 8 foot tall werewolf that's smart and hunts. Okay, it doesn't have to hunt in packs, but it can hunt in packs,
Right.
which is most likely a werewolf because they'll run in a family pack, right? That werewolf in American Werewolf in London is
It was more on
it,
instinct.
it's more what?
But the werewolf in American Wolf in London was more an instinct. It acted out like a real animal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. That's. I can't argue that. I think he's just too powerful for what he's supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Like he burst through a steel door in the cinema to get out into Piccadilly Square, right? Um, the love story between him and her is just a bit rushed.
Okay.
Um, like I think the whole third scene in that movie is just rushed a little bit.
Okay.
Um, and then that ending scene where he recognizes her and all of a sudden he's not as angry and then they shoot him. I was like, what was that? It's just an anti-climax for me. Now, don't get me wrong. The way I'm talking about that makes it sound bad. American Werewolf is number two for me.
I actually love the ending to America. I love the fact that they shoot him and then bam, and the credits roll. I think it just, that you don't need anything more than that.
I get that as well. Like that's fine to me. It's just all the way to the ending. It's rushed. I find, and then it also has one of those scenes that really throw me out when it has the Nazi werewolves in it. I was like, what the fuck is this?
I actually like that because it's just an obscure dream, like a fever dream nightmare, and I dig that. I understand that, he's now becoming this creature, so he's having these wild nightmarish fever dreams, and I kind of dug that.
I mean, like I get it and I don't. Do you know what I mean? It'd make more sense if he was dreaming that he was a wolf or something. Like,
Well, the fact that he was also Jewish, and his parents were Jewish, and the whole Nazi thing. So that, I think that's why he had those dreams that they were like Nazi werewolf demon
the
like.
two worst things that
Yeah,
you could think of, maybe.
yeah. So yeah, exactly.
I mean, I understand, and I'd love to actually have the chance to sit down with John Landis and ask him.
And pick his brain.
But yeah, like I couldn't even sit there and be like, your movie was shit, because it's not,
No,
and everyone knows it's not.
it's far.
And it still holds up as the best transformation scene.
Oh,
And I think
in bright light, and I mean, Rick Baker's effects were. It's just, to this day, nobody's done better than that. In bright fluorescent lights.
And I was very surprised about it. I thought they would have done it really well when I heard Craven was doing one, and obviously he done um what the fuck was his one called?
Cursed. The,
Cursed, yeah, yeah, that was awful.
well, a lot of it's not his fault. They
Yeah, I know, yeah,
that they yeah it was the Weinstein's fault
yeah,
because they took control of everything and they actually reshot that film I think twice.
yeah, or 90% of it. I know that, yeah,
It's not even what Craven wanted, and the matter of fact they still haven't shown his director's cut yet.
Mm. They signed us something like a 20-year burial or something like that, didn't they? I read somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but
Mm.
I for whatever reason it is, they have not released his director's cut, which is unfortunate because it's not what Craven, initially wanted. The script was
Yeah,
totally different.
I did feel I knew I'd heard that quite early into it coming out in 2003 or 2004, whatever it was.
Yeah,
But like it just didn't do it.
and and they screwed over Rick Baker too because Rick
Yeah,
Baker was supposed to do practical werewolf effects again, and they fucked everything up again with CGI.
yeah, that was terrible. And like the werewolf going around had glasses on in one scene,
Yeah,
and you're like,
giving
what?
giving the middle finger if you remember.
Nah, bollocks.
I mean, for me, once I saw that, I was like, it just took me out. I was like, I had it. I was done with it.
Do you know what? I have a transformation scene saved on my phone, and it's the greatest transformation scene. It tops Rick Baker's one by a mile.
Really? Which one was that?
So it's a little indie in. Stop saying indie. It's an Indian horror film, right? Where a guy is trapped against a wall, and there's a wolf, but it's actually a dog staring at him, and he shoots lasers into his eyes, right?
I think I saw that.
And then it's like stop go patchwork on his face.
I think I saw
Ah,
that. Yeah, it's insane. It's funny. I think I saw that.
now I don't want to give too much away about your one, but I
Well,
think
it's obvious
what
that the house has to do with werewolves, but
yeah,
without giving away too much.
yeah, as you can see over your shoulder there,
Yes.
um, that looks significantly better than most werewolf masks that we've seen in the last ever.
Well, that is courtesy of Kyle Thompson of Midnight Studios Effects. He sculpted, designed that werewolf. I'm just gonna put it this way: there's different transformations in the film. That's all I'm gonna say. But the first version, I sculpted and designed that first version of the werewolf. Kyle Thompson of Midnight Studios Effects designed that werewolf, which
That
is
werewolf.
far superior. Yes.
But then again, like you look at it, you're a director, right? That guy's doing that for a living.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You'd expect it to be better. That's no offense to you, but you'd expect his one to be better.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
found I found your transformation very close to Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah, a
That kind of way.
combination of Thriller and The
Teen
Howling
Wolf.
and a little bit of American Werewolf in London. Yeah, I borrowed here and there.
Yeah. Now that's what I got because obviously you see the hair coming out of the sleeves and stuff. I was like, hey, he knows where his bread's buttered there. Um.
I mean, what's your thoughts on the transformation and the werewolves?
So I liked where it was going. With the transformation. The transformation was good. Definitely one of the better transformations I've seen.
And it was
Um,
it was basically all practical too.
well, I mean, I'd have told you straight up it was shite if it was CGI anyway, but I liked where you were going. I liked the pain he was in. Now, I didn't like.
It was a pain like he was enjoying because he was getting satisfaction at scaring. I'm not going to give it away, but scaring. You know what?
I didn't like the start of it though, where he's just sitting on the chair and he's like, do, and he just rolls back and it's like, no, now we're gone.
Okay.
I didn't overly enjoy that bit, but the transformation was very good. Even from his teeth coming out and his gums ripping, and I was like, Jesus. because everyone knows what it's like to have a cut in your gum. It hurts like a motherfucker.
And that's another thing that lacks in transformations when you're having fangs growing out of your gums. There's going to be bleeding, and you never see bleeding. So I said there's got to be a lot of blood coming out. I mean, it's not a clean process.
I like the facial transformation. Um, I really enjoyed sort of the second part of the transformation when obviously you see what's behind you.
Yeah,
Um, I liked what he was doing where he was keeping the bloodline.
I wanted
Um,
something totally different. Instead of just having your usual werewolf lycanthrope film or something, I wanted to throw a curveball.
I, I, I was completely struck out by it. I was like, what is going on here? Um,
I'm glad.
you
I'm happy to hear that.
you obviously took something from Blade. Uh, why when he obviously attacks the mother and whatnot in Blade, that's how he gets that to go. So
Yeah.
obviously you that like I don't know whether you took directly from that.
No, I didn't. I mean, I find that interesting, but okay, I see the sort of similarities.
Yeah. I see. I don't want to give too much away. To an extent, and then obviously what happens in the basement is just all around fucked up.
That's another. I wanted to do something totally different, and without giving it away. But the basement scene, yeah, it's a wild thing going on there.
That's uh that's where we go back to the conversation we had before we came on about Brain Dead.
Okay.
Where you didn't expect that to happen in Brain Dead, where they had that same kind of thing, and then all of a sudden,
Basement scene. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. I see what you're saying exactly,
yeah, you get me, you get me.
and I love
Um,
that scene.
so I enjoyed it. It was definitely the stronger of the three. Now, obviously, we haven't got on to the last one, and I will do that because I don't want to hold you here all night.
I don't.
Um, so I really enjoyed that. There was some good work in there as well, some lighting work, some great camera work, the transformation.
Wanted to be very stylistic with the colors, the light. I mean, obviously it's not natural lighting, but I wanted to be very stylistic with the lighting, sort of like Argento or Japanese colors and stuff. And yeah, the lighting I wanted to be very specific with each story.
You can definitely tell that. You can definitely tell that. And then obviously we move to the last story. This one was a strange one. Like you see it in a few films and a few episodes of the X Files and stuff. Um, Again, I don't want to give too much away. I found this for me, it's the weaker of the three.
I find that surprising because a lot. I kid you not, a lot of people love homebound horror. They love the house and homebound horror as their favorites.
Then again, as it says, I prefer Japanese horror, so that's maybe why the first one kind of ticked over to me
Okay.
a bit more. I found some scenes in this. Now, again, the practical effects in this were very, very good. Um, the gang were very good. The
And
obviously the
that was also that was directed with from my co-director Kevin Lasani. We worked together. I co-produced the third story. I wrote the story. The original story is for me. He revised it. We both produced it. He directed Homebound Horror, which he did a phenomenal job. And honestly, I love Homebound Horror. To me, I think I it's my favorite of the three.
is that though is that though because you've directed the other two and you don't want to sound
No, not at all. Not, matter of fact, when I wrote the script and I wrote Homebound, the original title to Homebound Horror was originally titled Coming Home. Um, it was always my favorite story, believe it or not. So to me, I love Homebound Horror.
it's not that I don't like it. It's just obviously um The first story probably hits a little closer because I like J horror,
Right.
and I liked the cinematography that you done for it and how grainy and dark it was. Obviously, this one was done on a different camera.
Yes. And
Um,
you can see the difference. Yes.
this one, the design of the final character, the Marine,
Victor. Yes.
yeah, is
It was played by Rashad Milner, also very good actor. But I'm sorry.
yes, I thought he played the part very, very well. Um, I found his character towards it to be very similar to Roddy Piper in They Live.
Okay, that's
Uh,
interesting. Okay.
Obviously, not all of it, but towards the end when he's walking back to the shop and stuff, there was
Yes.
that scene on the road, and I was like, now I have to go watch They Live.
Which I love. They Live. It's a classic. But
That's another movie that's still 30 years ahead of its time,
oh yeah, oh yeah. It's still
maybe more.
and still speaking socially. You know.
Yep.
But yeah. I mean, Homebound Horror had a totally different look compared to the first two
Yeah.
stories. I wanted to give, well, me and Kevin wanted to give Homebound Horror a more of a grittier grindhouse look to it compared to the first two stories.
It definitely does have a grindhouse look. Definitely does. As I says, it was enjoyable. I don't want to give too much away because the story in this one's a little bit simpler, you'd say.
It has, yeah, but it has a story within a story within a. It has like three subplots in there. If you look at it, between the Marine, the drug cartel, and then the love story behind everything.
Yeah, like it's generally kind of an easy mistaken identity kind of
Being at
story.
the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
Uh, yep.
and you have a little piece of shit that fingers you out for.
Right, right, right.
But like,
And no pun intended, fingered him out, if you know what I mean.
uh, yeah, straight out. Oh no, that one was fully intended.
Yeah, he that I love that scene. That was done the way we executed that, the way Kevin shot it. That's one of my favorite scenes right there.
Yeah, I like as I says, it was the weakest of the three for me,
Okay,
but that doesn't make it bad.
right. I mean, look,
I just mean,
that's your yeah. I mean, you're entitled to have your opinion. I mean, I think it's one of the strongest of the three. But yeah, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
oh no, but like I'd say 99% of people that'll sit and watch this will pick that as probably number two.
Right,
I think the majority of people will pick House as one. Now I could be wrong with that,
right,
but for me, I really enjoyed the first one to an extent,
right.
without giving much away. Two, I enjoyed some amazing practical effects.
Thank you.
Three, I enjoyed. Um, I think maybe if three had been the first story, I think it's the way it's shot and the way it's directed might have changed my view on it if I had seen that part first.
Right.
Do you know that kind of way? Like I've sat in and I've watched basically an American J horror. I've sat in and I've watched um, a creature feature to an extent, and then I've sat in and all of a sudden it's gone to nearly like a HD thing. I was like, well, where's my 80s camera gone?
I mean, we try to give it uh, as much as possible. Give it that grittiness. With the grain on top. I mean, you know what it is. You could do so much when you shoot on digital. That's the beauty of shooting on film is that you get the natural grain, contrast, the rich colors. Um, you don't get that with digital cameras. So it comes close with the technology they have now, even with the high end, big budget Hollywood films. but you just don't get that quality when you shoot on film.
Film is always going to be superior, though, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I love shooting on film, and I still do.
And I like one of the first films that I really remember that was like that when I thing was. Do you ever see 8 mm but with Nicolas Cage in it?
Absolutely, I saw that in the movies. I love that film.
Yeah. No, it's not an easy watch at all by any stretch of the means.
It's it's
It's
a
a
it's a very disturbing picture.
yeah.
I remember watching it and I felt uncomfortable, especially at the end.
But watching what they filmed on to him watching the videos that were shot on a different camera, and you're like, wow, look at the difference.
Yes.
Yeah. But things like that, like
Well, here's a trivia for you. The scenes that in Whispering Hollow Road, everything that's shot with the Super 8 camera, without revealing anything, what the footage that you see, whenever you see the small box or the viewfinder shots, that's actual 8 mm Super 8. So you're watching the transition from Ultra 16 mm to Super 8. So you're actually
nice,
getting both aspects.
nice.
Oh,
That's
film quality, yeah.
there you go, folks. There, there's a man that's put the quality in, put the work in. So what I would suggest is to go and support this movie. Definitely support this movie. When it comes out, whenever it is, it does come out. We'll obviously keep it out there for you.
It should be in a few months. There should be a release date.
But like as I says, as soon as you know anything, let us know, and we'll definitely pop it out for you.
There's definitely going to be a Blu-ray release, and obviously it's going to be streaming. The Blu-ray is going to have tons of bonus features, making of the film, trailer, commentary track. It's going to have all that.
Awesome. Um, but there's not much more I can say tonight. About this because obviously I don't want to ruin anything for people, and this has definitely been one of the harder episodes that I've done where I can't say, well, this happened. Wait till you see this or things. So I've had to try and keep things
Right.
uh,
Tight and not say without spoiling anything, which sucks.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But as I says, it was enjoyable, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to watch it.
Yeah, and thank you for requesting to watch it and having me on your show. Seriously,
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate this.
Absolutely. And as sort of all the people that watch this show know, like I couldn't care less who it is. If it was Joe Blogs down the street and he was in a horror movie and he wants to come on the show and talk about it, I will sit and talk. Like sit and talk, and horror is great because any guest you get gives different views on things. Like you've seen my views on Texas Chainsaw, on this, that, and the other, compared to yours. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's all well and good, me and the three lads in here having the same conversation week in, week out, but we like to diverse off, and you've seen it tonight. We've gone through Terrifier, we've gone through Texas Chainsaw, Nightmare on Elm Street, Cursed, American Werewolf, your movie. You know what I mean?
We have films that we both appreciate and like, and we had ones that we disagreed on, but we pretty much have similar likes of horror films.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously, Creature Feature is my box of tricks, really.
Yeah, so I love monster flicks. I've always have and always will have a heart, especially for Godzilla, men in rubber suits and stop motion. And you can't you can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask you the question that I already know the answer is coming, right? It's a question that we've asked guests when they've seen both movies. American Werewolf in London or Dog Soldiers? You've already given us the answer, so you might as well just throw it out there.
Well, my answer, obviously, it's going to be American Wolf in London first, Dog Soldiers second to that.
It's so that would you care to hazard a guess as to which one is winning? So you're the 11th person we've asked, right?
Okay.
8 people have been able to answer, including yourself now. What would you say the score is?
I'm sorry, you broke up there. What was that?
Oh, sorry. So we've eight people that have scored in this poll, right?
Okay.
Uh, including yourself. So what would you say the score is? Who do you think's winning?
I would say, well, here here in the States, a lot of people love, obviously, American Wolf in London is huge here in the United States. But I would say all over the world, especially in the UK, or
No,
but I'm just saying,
most of
well,
most of our guesses have been American.
I would say American Wolf in London.
No,
No?
no. It's 5-3 now with your vote to Dog Soldiers.
Really?
Yeah, and four of the five people voted in that for that were American.
Hmm. Well, look, I don't dislike Dog Soldiers. I love
Oh
Dog.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a fun film. I watch it at least once or twice a year. I love the film.
Yeah. Now don't get me wrong. The only other person from the UK that voted for it was friend of the show, Janine Pipe, who wrote the book on the making of Dog Soldiers.
Where where can
Um,
where can I get my hands on that book?
Amazon. I'll get Janine to send me the link and I'll
Yeah,
send it on to you.
because
Um,
I actually watched that podcast, and I'm interested in purchasing the book. So yeah, if you could send me the link, I
the
appreciate it.
the one we did with her.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What I'll do is I'll also send you the episode that we have in the back catalogue, the Battle of Lycan Supremacy,
Okay,
where we argued which one was better with a
okay.
guest host. But as for tonight, now I think this episode's gone longer than most, because we went off the beaten track about 14,000 times. But Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. You're welcome back absolutely anytime.
Thank you so much for having me on. Everybody can come and visit my website. It's darkvisionfilms.com. And they can also follow me on Instagram, the Monster Mash movie. So follow me there. You can follow Dark Vision Films on Instagram also. So it's darkvisionfilms.com, and follow me on Instagram, the Monster Mash movie. And you can also follow, like me on Facebook, Dark Vision Films also.
Absolutely. Well, that beat my next question too. I was going to say you can plug now whatever you need to plug in. And if you send us a list of the socials, we'll add them on when the episode's out. Um, but as for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this has been your Friday night. Might now be close to a Saturday morning by the time this was over. But I'm going to finish this the way I finish every Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. In the words of the great George A. Romero, stay scared.
That's right. Thank you for